Welcome back to the AI Daily Brief Headlines Edition, all the daily AI news you need in around 5 minutes. We kick off today with a pretty interesting interview from Goldman Sachs co-head of public tech investing, Sung Cho. The TLDR is that Goldman believes that AI capex is still accelerating. Cho said, just a few months ago when AI stocks were on their lows, there was a perception that AI capex was in later innings. Now we've gotten to the point where the market believes the AI capex is in the middle innings. He discussed the shift in perception being due to three big factors. Firstly, Meta's hiring blitz, reinforcing that the competition to train new frontier models is far from over. Secondly, reasoning models causing a huge wave of demand for inference compute. And third and finally, the administration's policy changes that have opened up foreign demand for NVIDIA chips. When asked to comment on the Deepseek scare in January, he noted that the market got it completely wrong. Specifically, that the low cost of model training was negligible compared to the huge inference needs of reasoning models. Now, this is exactly what we talked about when people were freaking out about this back in January. And yet, if none of this comes as a surprise to you, it is noteworthy that the Wall Street consensus is shifting. Current projections from Goldman have hyperscaler capex ending the year at $330 billion, up almost 50% from 2024. They expect to see $391 billion in capex spend for 2026 and $427 billion in 2027. Looking at the hockey stick chart, Rev Capital commented, the biggest capital cycle since railroads. We are 1 year out from Goldman Sachs questioning whether AI capex would see a return, and spending has just done nothing but skyrocket since then. Boyette Street Capital posted, crazy numbers here. The Street killed Meta for spending $31 billion in capex. Now they are estimating nearly twice that. Year of AI over the year of efficiency. Speaking of Deepseek, that company has blamed their lack of progress on export controls. The information reports that the Chinese startup's R2 reasoning model hasn't shipped because their CEO isn't satisfied with it. R2, the follow-up to the R1 model that went viral in January, was originally slated for release in May. The goal was to improve coding ability and introduce reasoning in languages other than English. Deepseek engineers have reportedly been working over the past several months to refine the model, but the release is yet to get the green light. There are also concerns, however, that Chinese AI infrastructure can't handle the release of the more powerful model. The report said that a surge in demand for R2 would quickly overwhelm the inference capacity of Chinese cloud providers. The model runs best on NVIDIA H20 chips, which were banned from export in April, and the report stated that Deepseek engineers have been providing cloud companies with tech specs to help guide their deployment of the new model, all of which suggests that export controls have been more successful than many believed. R2 was supposed to be the showcase model for Huawei's competing Ascend chips, but it sounds as though supplier performance are crimping the rollout. Says Vrasser X, Deepseek's R2 hitting a wall isn't just a supply chain footnote. It's a small win for global AI safety. U.S. export controls have starved Chinese labs of the latest NVIDIA silicon, forcing Deepseek to shelve its R2 rollout for now. They then go on to give their explanation of why to cheer the slowdown, but in any case, definitely a different narrative than I think most people had in their minds and something that's worth keeping an eye on. Speaking of keeping an eye on, we continue to watch to see if Zuckerberg's aggressive poaching spree will yield results, and it appears that another leading researcher has jumped ship from OpenAI. Trapit Bansal has joined Meta after helping OpenAI get reasoning off the ground, working directly with Ilya Sutskever. Bansal is listed as a foundational contributor to O1, the company's first big reasoning model. Separately, Bloomberg reports that Meta is in talks to buy AI voice startup Play AI alongside with hiring some of its employees. At this stage, Meta's superintelligence team is starting to take shape. Reporting had stated that Zuckerberg was trying to hire around 50 AI researchers, and so far we have about a dozen names. The big question is whether Meta is simply looking to catch up with the competition with Llama 5, or if they really are taking a direct shot at superintelligence. One indicator on that is that one of the OpenAI researchers that jumped ship, Lucas Bayer, tweeted to deny the $100 million rumors. He said, hey all, yes, we will be joining Meta. 2, no, we did not get a $100 million sign-on. That's fake news. Excited about what's ahead though, we'll share more in due time. My take is that this has to be more interesting than just trying to get Llama 5 to be good, or else it would be very hard, even with huge bonuses, to attract this caliber of researcher. Still, the tone is definitely shifting on Twitter to basically wondering if Zuckerberg really can buy his way to supremacy here. Alex on X writes, at this point, I'm quite convinced Zuck will just keep spending until there's parity between OpenAI and Meta. Meta is making $60 billion in profit a year, and OpenAI just raised $60 billion so far. At some point, you can't just keep raising. Frank New writes, my hot take, Zuck and Meta are going to beat all other companies in the Mag 7 and achieve AI dominance. Lastly today, although people turning to AI for companionship makes for a splashy headline, Anthropic argues that it's not as widespread as you might think. Recently, there's been a wave of reporting on people falling in love with chatbots that make it seem like the phenomenon is widespread. Harvard Business Review found that therapy and companionship is now the #1 use case for AI. A Forbes study suggested that 80% of Gen Zers would marry an AI. And the Wall Street Journal's Joanna Stern even referenced the trend in a recent commencement speech, warning college grads not to fall in love with a robot or chatbot. She said, seriously, it's happening more than you think. But how much is it happening, really? A new report from Anthropic suggests not that much. The AI lab analyzed a sample of anonymized Claude data and found that very few conversations are about therapy or companionship. They wrote, affective conversations are relatively rare, and AI-human companionship is rarer still. Only 2.9 of Claude AI interactions are effective conversations, which aligns with findings from previous research by OpenAI. Companionship and roleplay combined comprise less than 0.5% of conversations. Still, some people aren't buying it. Justine Moore from A16Z says, in my opinion, it's dumb to conclude people aren't using AI for companionship based on Claude data. People use different models for different things. Most Claude use cases, as Anthropic reports highlight, are work-related and coding. People use other LLMs for emotional support. She continued, go on TikTok or Instagram and search me and ChatGPT. Your feed will be full of these types of videos which really resonate with people. And she showed people using ChatGPT in exactly that sort of therapist or companion way. I think from my perspective, we are just still figuring out how people are going to use these tools, and there may be some major generational differences here. Although it is always worth being skeptical of headlines, which obviously have a very different set of goals than just keeping you informed. For now, that's going to do it for today's headlines. Next up, the main episode.